Okay, this isn't going to be a fancy video. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm tired. It's been a long day. I missed the bus. It takes me 3-4 hours to get home at night after talking about Wittgenstein and blah blah blah, non-cognitivism versus naive realism versus some reading of Tolstoy by Cora Diamond, and it's all actually really interesting, but I'm not really into it tonight because before that I went to the DMCA Roundtable. We'll get through this, man. It's 3 a.m. I'm so tired. But I went to the DMCA Roundtable in San Francisco today. And no, Channel Austin won't be there tomorrow, so I didn't meet anybody from them, sadly. We're quite nice folks, but I realized one thing. Oh my God. If you like using the internet, you're screwed, pretty much. If you like making things on YouTube, Vimeo, Veo, if you like Patreon, if you like the culture that has essentially been created in the last generation, you're screwed. Because nobody in that room really gave a damn about you. They wanted to. They wanted your money, they want your creativity, they want your allegiance. And a lot of people even want to support your free speech, but they have trouble making headway because they've got the connection to the guys who just want to use your creativity to drive ads. It is a massive clusterfuck in there. I somehow should have known that, but I didn't. I walked into a narrative that was just Silicon Valley versus a traditional media industry. And in all that copyright debate, you and me, nowhere to be found. Partly we're not there, we're not showing up, and we need to be. But partly there's nobody talking about us either, so they don't even notice we're not in the room. When somebody finally points it out, we go on to some lame joke about the internet is only about pirates and cats, and the pro-industry guy replies, actually, we found out all the cat videos are pirated too. It's all piracy. Room laughs, and I just 10 years ago, maybe Colbert could have made that funny. It's gone, man. That's not where it is anymore. I don't really like talking about my age, but I'm 37, alright? I was born in 1979. I was after Star Wars, before The Empire Strikes Back. I got to see the world change. When the 1998 DMCA Act came out, I watched the world change. I'm the last generation that went from typewriters to computer labs in school. I watched the death of the 8-track as a very small child. Cassettes, laser discs. I saw CDs come in, DVDs come out, and I'm watching CDs go away. Blink and you miss the HD DVD. So many formats come and go, and the failure to adapt to the digital one, oh, it's terrible in there in that room. The industry guys want nothing but a kind of too big to fail mentality to bail them out with even stronger copyright protections so they can keep making CDs. I do not know why the health in the music industry is entirely tied up in talking about CD sales. If you tell me, oh my God, CD sales are now half of LP sales, I'd be like, we should be making more LPs. How do we exploit that market more? Instead, it's just all about how do we protect CDs. And the poor artists, I don't really blame them. They've been shackled by the media industry itself for a very long time. So as soon as they tell them the ship is sinking, and it's the only ship they've ever known, well, of course they jump on board. They don't even jump on board. They're there and they don't know anything else. And so the Silicon Valley guys sit there and try to say, we created all this new technology, it's great, it's more channels, it's more everything. And in many ways, they're quite right. But they take an extraordinarily condescending tone towards all the other folks in the room on the industry and artist side. You idiots just can't figure out what to do. Yeah, but industry guys, you aren't helping them figure it out either. Yes, when you try, they are resisting. But you're condescending, it's not helping. I watched a fellow from Microsoft, very nice guy for the most part, very smart, had a very good answer to piracy. He said, we don't fight it. We out-engineer it. That's all we look at. We knew it was a losing game to fight the piracy, so we out-engineer it. Brilliant. And part of why Microsoft stays on top. I'm not really that big a Microsoft booster. I've got my issues, but I have a legal copy of Microsoft. I do. But almost none of this matters, because then you have the Electronic Frontier Foundation and Stanford and Berkeley groups and a lot of folks who are concerned about what concerns me the most, the issues of free speech and fair use, and the use of the DMCA takedowns to silence criticism or to create alternative business models that exploit the judicial system. I sat in the room with one of the, next to Prenda Law, another quite big copyright troll. If you want to do the research and look at the names, the public agenda for DMCA Copyright Office meeting is publicly available. I'm sure you can do the math yourself and figure it out with a little bit of poking around EFF and TechDirt and perhaps Ars Techna, other places that follow these kinds of stories. I felt a little dirty afterward, really. Those folks aren't getting listened to by the industry because they just look like they're in the pocket of Google. So they want to help us. The truth is they can't, and the Silicon Valley is not helping them do it because nobody knows how to talk to each other. So listen up, here it is. I've spent a long time studying copyright law for myself. If you were a nerd back in the 90s and you were playing Dungeons and Dragons, you know the copyright storm that happened as the internet was coming up right then. That's what started me looking at copyright in the very first place. And as it's gone on over the years, now I've moved on to thinking about the copyright that applies in fair use. And so I tried making some other videos like I'd see guys at Channel Loss and whatnot do. And they've encountered their own problems now, going from a truly safe harbor like Blip, having it bought out by a corporation, dismantled, and having to move on to YouTube and looking for alternatives that are nowhere near as big an audience as YouTube could get them or Blip did back in the day. Fair enough. I sat there and talked to an industry that didn't even really know what was going on. No. We're only after the people uploading like full movies and piracy. You don't know that if I upload a video, I've got to deal with like 5 different copyright claims from 5 different studios, or sometimes 2 same studios for different little bits. Out of 20 or 30 copyright claims that I've got on like the less than a dozen videos that I've done, with the exception of 2 from my very first early videos where even I felt, I used too much. I'm learning. That was a little too much. I'll dial it back. I took those ones down or made them private. Maybe one I edited back up to a standard I was comfortable with. Maybe one I'll go back in and re-edit it a bit. On Dailymotion it's still available. If someone sent me a strike to take it down, there'd be serious consideration. But the other ones, I've fought. Now, 20 or 30, I've only lost 2. Let's just assume there were 20. I know how the system works. I know that the system is wrong 9 out of 10 times. I know this because I then argued with the copyright holders and they backed down. One time, it took invoking very recently when I was going back and had to let many languish and not made any videos in a long time because it was just too damn frustrating. I went back, I argued with them. I invoked Lens versus Universal when it got up to the, we're going to give you a real strike. They backed off, released a claim. That's what happens. Guys, Nobody's got our back but us. We've got to educate ourselves about what fair use really is. I've curated a list of like more than 100 videos on a playlist on this channel of all the hashtag WTFU stuff. There are a lot of different opinions out there. Some don't support, some don't support how it's going on. Many do. A lot of people have a lot of different ideas about what copyright is. Some of it is not quite correct. And I heard some of that not quite correct sitting there in the room, where somebody who holds the digital rights for music says, hey, we sent a note down to someone, and they said, no, it's fair use. I'm making a commentary and a review about the song. And I said, no, you can't, because it's commercial and it's monetized. And that, you can commercialize your fair use stuff. There are lots of complexities to how much it goes, but the general thing, especially if you're doing transformative work and it's commentary, you can monetize it. But the guys trying to take you down don't even know that much. And on the other hand, a lot of us think, well, I put it up and I'm not charging money for it, therefore it's fair use. No, it doesn't work that way either. And you're hurting us who like making these things for you when you do that. Because it makes it much harder for us to come in good faith and negotiate with the larger copyright holders in the industry. And at the end of the day, that's what we've got to do, guys. We got to look at what the documentarians did about 10 years ago. Once the fees got too high, they realized, you know what, we're licensing all these clips. Do we really even need to license all these clips? Do we have a fair use standard to fall behind? And they thought about it, and they hired lawyers, and they all looked into it, and they said, we have not been availing ourselves of our constitutional rights. And so they did. They even asked for permission before they did it, and they said, look, we'd like, here's our low ball figure for using the clips to keep good relations with you. Are you cool with it? No, we want a lot of money. Fine. Out the door. They got together, various groups of them, organized, created a best standards and practices, got lawyers to sign off on it, and very few, if any, claims against them in copyright have stuck since then. And they had barely even been bothered. They could get, with that backing them, Yoko Ono to back off of a truly terrible documentary, Expelled. I hate it. It's horrible. It's so inaccurate. But you know what? God bless them. Because they could get Yoko Ono to back off when they wanted to use a small snippet of John Lennon's Imagine to make a point after what someone else had said, who they said was just ripping off John Lennon. That is just the way to do it. Even put the words on screen so it makes a point that you're drawing attention to the words in your commentary. That is exactly the way to do it. And it worked for This Film Is Not Yet Rated, Gasland. Almost any major documentary you've enjoyed in the past 10 years benefited from this shield. And this shield is the hard work that they gave themselves in putting in and putting forth, this is our industry, this is what we do, this is what we say is fair. This is what we say is fair, not just arbitrarily, but by the law. Now we know that a lot of these claim first, ask questions later shit is happening at third-party companies. Not Disney. Disney's doing it their own damn self, and that's a problem, guys. But many of the others, that's why I could sit there in the same room with Paramount going, we're not after you guys. That doesn't happen. We don't do that. We're only looking for the full stuff. I don't think that they even really know what their third-party companies are doing. They just know that they make them money. And nobody's going to tell them that the emperor has no clothes but us. We're the only ones who might be able to tell them to get them listen, because we're not going to get paid by Silicon Valley, because we're not going to necessarily look like the academic jerks that they think are in some ivory tower and don't really know how the law works. We can do better. Channel Awesome, Manic Expression, Shay Apocalypse, PewDiePie, Every Frame of Painting. Guys, more of you. Way more of you. We've got to educate each other. We've got to write our own ship, and then we've got to sail it out of the safe harbor and take it into battle, but with honor and dignity. We can't just spout off, I hate this. It's not going to work. I saw how people are talking to each other in these copyright tables, and it doesn't work. The condescending tone doesn't work. Jimquisition, you've gotten money from YouTube to defend yourself. Industry's not going to take you seriously dancing around the giant dildo, no matter how funny I think it is. And that's the problem that the industry doesn't realize, is how far they've fallen in respect. They have abandoned a culture, a generation, going, we created our own, we loved your culture, and so we did a lot of our things with it, and then you told us we were criminals for doing it with the technology that you gave us to do it, and everyone's confused. But I've gotten to know that generation coming behind me. They grew up not knowing anything but computers and being able to rip DVDs and being able to share files and being able to do all this stuff and being able to smartphones and being connected and all that jazz. They don't know anything else, but they're not bad people by any means. That's just what they do, and it's not a bad thing necessarily that they do when it becomes more cultural production. And when I say what they do, well, we do it too. We grew into it. They were born to it. And there's another generation. I've been substitute teaching over the past year. There was another generation coming up that is even more involved. They've all got smartphones, and they're like, 13. Bizarre. That's the world we live in. The old media is abandoning them over some ill-fated crusade against piracy instead of learning how to out-engineer it, which is the only real choice they have. And those of us who want to use fair use to create things are getting lost in the shuffle. We're not at the table. We didn't ask to be at the table. We're not showing up. Me, I was lucky enough to just be nearby. I threw myself out there saying, hey, I'm just a citizen, I'm a graduate student, so I'm worried about the scholarship aspects. I've done making videos too. I'm worried about the fair use. I was lucky and I got to walk in. And there were people who were happy to see me, and they were mostly people from think tanks or colleges largely supported by the Silicon Valley, which means I love you guys and I'd love to work with you in the future. But the industry can't take you seriously. If we're going to be taken seriously, man, shine the light out there. Where are the other industry people that are making this change over to a digital marketplace so much better? Where are you, Neil Gaiman? Where are you, Amanda Palmer? Why are you not at these meetings? Right now, everyone is performing. It's a carnival. And then they're going to go in a back room somewhere and make the actual deal. And it's just going to be a deal between Silicon Valley tech companies and old media guys, and not us. Unless we demand that seat, unless we're organized, unless we're respectable. I hate wearing a tie. I wore a tie today, button downs, and I can't promise that's going to happen every day. But this thing up here, with that, we can learn, educate ourselves, and be respectable. This is the future you got. And it is, in fact, serious shit. Because any moment now, I would have laughed this off a year ago, but right now, an overgrown Oompa Loompa could be my president. I'm not laughing anymore at that stuff, any more than I'm laughing at the cat picture piracy joke. It's old. It's tired. It's not funny. You do have to fight for your future, but you gotta fight smart. You gotta fight organized. You gotta fight with honor. We can do this, and you've got to do this for yourselves. That's all I got, man.